Alright, another response video, this time to Pyrrho, who just basically just keeps, great text just says mope. It's all mope. And Pyrrho just says whining, whining, whining to this question of accountability and responsibility. And he just keeps superficially whitewashing over those real issues. With the same old bullshit kind of excuse. I mean, same old in the sense that, every drunk driver walks into court and says, I didn't kill anybody, I didn't kill anybody, I didn't hurt anybody, there was no accident, so therefore I shouldn't have to pay any price, there's no penalty. And that would be bullshit, okay? I mean, the law exists for good reason, to prevent. And that's the whole intent of antinatalism, is to prevent the harm. You keep defending your right to risk the harm. For what? And again, for what? For your own self-indulgence. And again, all you have to say on this issue is that in principle you can get that logic. And you just keep defending, though, that somehow people have a right. That somehow they have the right to be drunk drivers. That there is some defense for it. Like you're just basically resorting to nature. You're saying it's the nature of the human being, and therefore he has a right. And that's just, I think, complete bullshit. It's not adequate to intelligent philosophical discussion. And look, I've told you I'm sorry about your kid and all that kind of stuff, but if that makes you incapable of having a rational conversation on this subject, then maybe you should just bow out of this one. All right, because you got to keep your eye on the prize, so to speak, of the mess you've already made and the cleaning up the mess you already made, and you can't really have a rational conversation about context because of that. That I would accept, but I'm not going to sit there and be manipulated in this argument, because you're going to use that circumstance to say somehow, see how I'm taking care of it. You're not taking care of it. You're certainly not taking care of it if it was the extreme. And again, saying that, oh yeah, well, I'd regret and kill myself if it turns out this way or that way. How is that an answer to the first question, which is, do we need to get into this mess in the first place? Is there any reason to even get into the mess in the first place? Talking about how you deal, once the mess exists, isn't relevant to the conversation about whether we should be making messes in the first place. There's two different issues. Should you build nuclear power plants? And what do you do now that one's melting down? Those are two different subjects. So anyway, as for response videos, I really don't care. I understand this concept that you can't reply endlessly word for word. I'm just saying I made the accusation of quote mining because, I thought you missed the two important bits of the video you sloughed over, and you decided to point to the ones that I thought were more psychology than philosophy. And that's your choice. I have that right to have that impression. All right, you say you didn't do that, fine. I'll take your word for it. Okay, you didn't deliberately choose what part of the videos you would play. Okay, for any advantage, fine. That's even fine. And I don't really care. I mean, the format of response doesn't matter. Ultimately, people are going to have to re-paraphrase the argument, make it concise again, and then expand, and concise and expand, concise and expand, and that's the way it's got to work. So I'm not obliging you to take every sentence I speak and respond to it. I'm just saying I thought the two major points in the video have still been left unaddressed, and are still unaddressed after another 30 minutes. So that's why I call bullshit, or something similar to bullshit. Alright, so anyway, 13 minutes in, there really wasn't anything in the first 13 minutes but whining, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, right, if everybody was given that choice, then if I killed somebody, it would just be another drunk driver, right?
So, this was the funny part. So now he's taken the drunk driving analogy and said everybody is a drunk driver, and that's not the point. The point is that we have a law against drunk driving because it's not because it definitely does something wrong, but because it's risk-taking for no purpose. No worthwhile accomplishment, no worthwhile liberty preserved for a huge catastrophic risk that just isn't worth it. That's the analogy. And now you're just changing again the metaphor or the thought experiment. You're bending it and twisting it into some other world where everybody on the road is a drunk driver. No, we're talking about innocent people sitting in their living room. The drunk driver drives into the living room, smashes them against the wall. That was my analogy. And then gives them the right to kill themselves because they're suffering. That's the analogy. That's the metaphor. Deal with that metaphor. Not some other metaphor, that metaphor.
Well, but I don't think life is like drunk driving.
Right, and I didn't say in my video life was like drunk driving. I said procreation is like drunk driving. It's assigning a huge risk to somebody else for your own convenience. That's the analogy. So again, if you're going to paraphrase, at least do it accurately, and that's just preposterously inaccurate. You will not find anywhere in my video where I say life is like drunk driving. That I don't say. Alright, so now we will jump ahead to 19-ish. I'll go 18 something, 1847. Come on, play.
A relation to my life. Okay. Because why would I be responsible for all of these people that are going to come, potentially, for my procreation, like you say, like I'm imposing on them? Why, if it wasn't for my link to them that I recognize and respect and act on? So I have much more character than you on this subject, because instead of bitching and whining and moaning, I'm acting on that. I'm giving myself to that cause.
So this is sort of his argument that somehow when he's rolling these dice with somebody's welfare, that he's, his arm has to get stretched and the dice are heavy, and he has some burden involved here and some connection. And I'm not even arguing that some parents aren't like that, but let's go worldwide. Let's look at the big picture, okay? Let's not look at a couple of the drunk drivers who drive really slowly and all drive like on the shoulder of the road and try really hard not to make a mess. Let's just talk about the typical drunk driver. Alright, and so let's look at the typical world life producer and talk about what the fuck they're doing and how invested they are. Alright, and you're going to find a hell of a lot of exploitation and a hell of a lot of I don't feel your pain. They don't. My father doesn't feel my pain. My mother doesn't feel my pain. So that's just bullshit. This argument that somehow the parents are invested. They're invested in a superficial way, like I love my cat. They're not the cat. Alright, so it's just bullshit. It's a bullshit argument. I'm a whole thing. I'm not what you feel for me. I'm not my parents' love for me. I am me, independent of their feelings. I have my own. I have, and you can't whitewash that away with some notion that somehow you're, again, can somehow take any of it away or absorb any of it through your empathy for your children.
Of acting for the future and for my children in the here and now, and helping them survive. And your philosophy is useless to me because it gives me no reason to do those things. Okay, it just gives me a reason to isolate myself, not help anybody, and just wait to die while I myself sit in gardens and take walks and.
Yeah, well, whatever. Whether my philosophy is useful to you, again, is irrelevant, I think, to argument and to what philosophy is supposed to be, which is a challenge to argument, a dissection of argument into the truth. That's what we're after here, is truth statements. I'm arguing that it's the truth, that natalism can be associated, can be easily paralleled to acts like drunk driving, that it is an imposition and that it has no purpose. It serves no necessity in the universe. It accomplishes absolutely nothing good and risks a lot of potential bad. It's completely a selfish act for individual humans. It has nothing to do with the general welfare or any other kind of logical mandate.
Photographs of flowers and pretend that
and whatever, like again, you want to mock the fact that again, like I said, it's not my obligation to explain the difference between living your life in the circumstance you're stuck in and making the best of that and the philosophical truth. The fact that we have to distinguish between those two things is just a fact. I mean, if you were in prison, you would cope with being in prison. You wouldn't be and because you coped, it wouldn't be you saying, I think prison's a great idea. It would just be I'm going to cope with it. So that's kind of bullshit too. So you score double bullshit on that little pile of crapola. So you're 21, 20-ish or so.
And if those things happen too, I'd go broke, and I might be insufficient for the resources, but I would perish under that burden as well, probably. So
again, he's personalizing. What we're talking about is all drunk drivers. We're talking about whether there should be a law against drunk driving, or whether at least there should be some sort of public sanction against it, some sort of taboo against it. Lots of statements saying don't do it. Okay. Procreation is bad. Okay. And you won't even go that far. And you're going to keep using your personal circumstance as evidence of the whole circumstance, which is, again, just as lame as some drunk driver walking into court and saying, but I've not killed anybody, so how can you hold me accountable? I'm holding you accountable for the psychology and philosophy that endorses the behavior. Okay, you're sanctioning the behavior. I'm not sanctioning the behavior. It has nothing to do with your personal life. It has to do with behavior sanctioned in society. And you're just not getting that. Alright, so we'll move on to 23. This one might be a long bit just because it gets really stupid here for a while. Really, really, really stupid. Incredibly, preposterously stupid. I'll go a little extra just for the fun of it.
See, you're wrong. My sperm is my sperm. My wife's eggs were her eggs. We have every right.
Again, so that's just like me saying my fingers are my fingers, my fist is my fist. I have a right to throw it in anybody's face. You know, my fingers are really good for reaching into eye sockets, pulling the eyeball out, popping it in the mouth, going yum 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 yum. Yeah, and it's just a bullshit argument. The fact that you have eggs and sperm does not give you some sort of philosophical, intelligent right to abuse them. All right, to drive them recklessly, to drunk drive with them. It's just a garbage argument. It's a childish argument. You can't use nature as an excuse for behavior. Not as a philosopher anyway. You might be able to do that as a dumb idiot, redneck southern idiot, moron fucktard, but you can't do it as somebody who's going to claim to be intelligent. Okay? Nature made me do it is not a rational excuse for anybody with a 60 or higher IQ. It just doesn't work.
And we'll get to that a little bit later, too, of just how screwed up your thinking is on this. I had every right to do whatever I want.
I mean, I could just leave that. I could just sit there and play that over and over, right? So I'll just play that over and over. I mean, you don't have any... That's the whole point of the conversation, is you don't have a right to do whatever you want. Your rights end where my rights begin. And I have a right, you know, to sign the terms of service. I have a right to... say, no, I don't want to be part of your Borg. Play your little Borg game with your own psychology. Put little pyros on the fucking roller coaster of doom. Alright? But don't put little Garys on it.
It's my skin cell. It's my life. I want to grow another skin cell and refresh my skin.
Yeah, I'm hungry for some eyeballs. I'm really hungry. I really, yeah, I need some eyeballs. So I just go out and take them.
You have no fucking place in that. It is my right. But it's reckless. But it wasn't reckless with anything that you have any interest in.
Well, again, see, you can't make that argument. A drunk driver can't make that argument, can they? Can they make that argument? Okay, it's not your interest. You don't have kids, so you can't say that there should be a law against drunk driving because you don't have kids that could be killed. Or let's say you don't drive. Say I don't drive. I'm still not allowed to say drunk driving is wrong. I'm still not allowed to pass a law against it because I will never be a victim. Well, but I might be because, yeah, he might drive across my lawn and fly into my living room and pin me against the wall and then give me a gun to blow my brains out with. What a generous, nice fellow.
Now, by the time it got its own interest, we can ask it.
Yeah, well, that's the catch, isn't it? Again, you're going to deal with the paradoxes thrown at us by nature, the quandaries, the predicaments, there's even a better word, the little bit of doomites that are just part of the natural order. And you're going to use them as an excuse to be an asshole. Because nature's asshole, you're going to be asshole. And that's all you're doing. And it's just such a bullshit excuse.
It's intrusion into what was my peaceful slumber in the eternal nothingness. You have no right to drag.
See, again, you know, you say I cherry-picked, but why do you keep saying this? This is one of the things I've been picking on, that I impose life on you. I cherry-pick something you fucking won't stop saying.
You know, it's the same argument. If you kill, let's say you're a drunk driver, and let's say my kid was killed by a drunk driver. You mean I can't argue with your behavior? You're an advocate for people being allowed to drink and drive, and say my kids were killed by a drunk driver. You're arguing to me that I wouldn't have a right to get in your face and say, why are you supporting these motherfuckers? Why are you letting these motherfuckers do this shit? I can't do that? I mean, come on. This is a silly argument. Of course I can do that.
To this cesspool, which it actually is.
All right, well, now he goes and gets another drink. So we'll move along to 25. We're probably almost there anyway. But we'll do a little jumpy thing because it's fun. Whoa. 25. Close enough.
And accountability. And yeah, that's how you're behaving. You're cliche retards. You're cliche, irresponsible, reckless, rednecky assholes.
No, you're just being extreme because none of those rednecky assholes will come talk to you. And they never will, because your attitude is, of course, designed to keep them away.
Oh, whatever. That's not really... Again, so you're going to say I'm contriving my personality and blah, 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 blah. And I just have no interest in that conversation. I don't give a fuck. I make arguments on the internet. People want to respond, fine. They don't want to respond, fine. I'll respond to their arguments if they make one. Blah, 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 blah. Enough said. Blah, blah, blah. You know, but the idea that I'm somehow averting the argument because, yeah, I don't feel obliged, you know, to politely tell Venom Fang X how nice he looks and how well he smells while he talks his puke. Yeah, no, sorry. I don't have any obligation to be polite to assholes, and I'm not going to be. And if they can't take it, then they can't take it. Too bad for them. Fuck it. It's not my obligation anyway. I make arguments. Somebody else can do the polite thing. Not my job. Alright, this is good enough, I think.
My children. That's right. You mean you would have children and it's not because God wished the star at that moment? And it's like, well, yeah, it was things we're going through, you know, and ideas and what you thought it to do. And I told you, I didn't justify. But you don't like the explanation. You don't like the fact that you...
No, I don't like the fact that, yeah, you're conceding you were kind of muddle-headed and not exactly your most brilliant. But you're still defending the act, okay? And so as long as you keep defending muddle-headedness and less than logical thinking and impulsiveness and all of these negative character traits being involved in the act of procreation, then I've got to call you evil and an asshole. You're defending the very behavior that you concede is stupid, and you're just sitting there saying, well, I was stupid, so everybody else should have a right to be stupid. That's stupid. I mean, the whole fucking point of learning better is to hopefully help people do better. And if you're just going to say, no, they got to learn for themselves that it was a mistake to have kids, well, isn't that fucking way too late? I mean, isn't that giving somebody medicine after they've been in the ground 3 fucking years? Oh, I got a cure for that now. Yeah, let's dig him up and give him the treatment. No, that's not going to work. All right, 8:28, 50-ish.
You don't see how misguided your thing is if you had any political awareness at all. Why? Pointing at the parents of the people that were trying to make Jilly free instead of the guy who killed them.
Oh, instead of the guy who killed them. Yeah, look, the guy who killed them was also one of these products of reckless reproduction. Okay, so yeah, the good little people were the breeder's fault. The bad people were the breeder's fault. The fact is the creating the human condition is the crime. Creating the human, a sloppy, stupid, idiotic mechanism. These are broken. The human machine is broken. You either redesign it and then justify you know, the new model and say, well, this is why the new model is worth it. Okay, the old model sucked. This new model will actually work. But I don't even think you can do that because it's still going to run on the same fuel, which is addiction. Pointless, silly addiction. Okay, make the fuel burn the fuel. Make the cake chase the cake. I mean, it first has to bury, you know, a billion years of life forms before it can burn their bodies to propel them, you know, to their, whatever, 50th anniversary party. I mean, it's just all made out of shit. That argument you haven't done anything to. You haven't even come close to putting a dent in. Alright, so we'll zoom ahead to 30-ish. I'll go back a little. Okay.
They want an ethical society. They want a cheater society. They want a might makes right society. And that's all you...
And again, I had kids, so I'm doing that. You
Again, this isn't about assessing blame to you for having kids. The subject is, should future people not only really think hard about having kids, but try to answer the two fundamental questions, like, is there something non-selfish about this act, number one, and number two, how do I justify the imposition? Because it will be an imposition if everybody gets to do it. I mean, we know the permutations. We know when you throw the dice that there will be snake eyes, and somebody's going to have to live with those snake eyes. Do you have the right to play that game? And so answer those two questions as just a basic, just the first step to making this decision that you're going to boldly go into the God domain and be a creator. That's all. But you instead just keep personalizing the subject. It's not a personal subject, Pyro. It's a subject about what should people do, how should people behave, and should they think, should this be the most agonizing, meticulously thought through, scrutinized decision of their life, or should they just drink and drive?
It's like anybody that will talk to you becomes all of the demons in your head. And then...
Again, you're the one that keeps bending the argument to your personal life. All right? I'm just asking you to concede that you made a decision when you in your youth that was reckless and not very well thought out. You've sort of conceded that. And so the bottom line is do we want people to do that in the future? And you're basically saying, well, because I did, I have to justify them doing it. And I'm saying, well, I don't think those two things are connected in the first place. In the second place, I don't even care. And if you want to take ridicule because I'm going to say that, yeah, somebody should have stopped you from being an asshole, I'm certainly going to say we should stop it in the future.
You talk to the demons in your head and using our names.
got on your side. You don't have any logical defense. If you were a minority in the society,
that's why I love this bit.
Let's say the vast majority of people...
Yeah, you love this bit, but you're going to completely misinterpret this bit again, which is kind of amazing. I mean, you just can't ever get the argument right.
Understood reproduction to be mindless nonsense. You'd have nothing to defend your minority status with.
Oh, yes, I would. It's called individual rights.
Oh, see, you resorted to individual rights. The argument was you would have nothing as an argument. Okay, it's like every minority always had a great argument. They always, like the anti-slavery argument, they had a great argument. Women's rights, it was a great argument. Right to vote, great arguments. Civil Rights Act, great arguments. You would have no great argument. Like animal eaters or something, you would have nothing if you were a minority. You would have not even a pay-attentionable argument. You would be like some religious nut arguing for the right to do animal sacrifices to their god or something. It would be a ludicrous, stupid, moronic, idiotic argument. That's because you have no argument. Your only argument is from nature, okay? There's no necessity to procreate. There's lots of things to do in the world. There's potato chips to eat. There's cats to pet. There's lots of things to do besides having kids. So it's no big fucking deal not to do it. And there's a big giant risk tied to it. And you're not going to be able to bury that argument. And like I said, it's only because you have majority status now that you sense any kind of superiority. If you were in the real place you should be in, which is a minority status, you would have such a feeble argument you wouldn't even raise your hand to make it, because you'd know how lame it was.
It's called individual rights. Meaning
The individual right to be a drunk driver. Right, exactly. No, that right loses. Okay, it loses. It loses a rational argument. It's not going to win the rational argument. Okay, drunk drivers will never have a strong lobby. They'll never have a voice because they're laughably inane and silly. They have nothing to defend their behavior with.
you have no claim on me because I didn't bring you into existence.
Again, we're not arguing about that. We're arguing about what it does, the behavior over time. So you making this claim is just like General Electric saying most of our nuclear power plants don't melt down. That's all you're doing. You're just saying because my nuclear plant isn't melting down, it's good, it's safe, it's worthy. It's a bullshit argument.
Children might have a claim, and if everybody agreed, they might be able to make a claim. Go to the court, and the court would approve of this sort of a claim, and my children could sue me for bringing them into existence.
And sue you for what? Like I said, how are they ever going to get back the suffering? You can't pay suffering back, so it's just silly. There's no accountability for if it all goes wrong.
But my individual right to have my own power over my own living,
to play God and create a new person. Again, this saying you have a right over your penis is just so silly, and your penis can do whatever the fuck you and your penis, because you're connected, you have a right to do anything you fucking want to. No, you don't. You have a right to gain gratification. You don't have a right to procreate and create new life without some kind of credential, some sort of driver's license, God license. Here's your little God license. I'm licensed by something with some sort of authority. Nature has no authority. You have to come up with a piece of rational, logical sense to say, well, this is what life is accomplishing, and this must be continued. This must be accomplished. You can make that argument, but the rest of it's going to be crap. So make that argument. But I haven't heard it yet. I haven't heard your life-validating argument.
Tissue. That would be my defense. And this just shows how corrupt you are, Gary. That you think that when I don't harm you, you can still say that in principle my action is harmful to people who may be...
Again, I can't make it any clearer. That's what the drunk driving analogy is for. All right, I don't have to have a drunk driver drive into my living room, pin me against the wall, and give me the right to shoot myself, okay, to make the argument that I have a right not to have that happen, to prevent that from happening. And the easiest way to prevent it is to merely stop people from thinking they have a right. Okay, it's not that complicated. You stop drunk drivers by telling them they can't drunk and drive.
Bothered. No, I'm sorry, that's not how justice systems, and you were preaching about fairness earlier, that's not how they work, right? Justice systems don't work that way. You have to actually materially harm a particular person for that particular person.
Again, so you're now making a completely idiotic argument, okay? The penalties against drunk driving have been upheld in court as proper punishment for the crime, okay? I mean, you can't commit... The crime is essentially attempted murder. Okay, it's like, what's the difference between real murder and attempted murder? Well, we know there's no real fucking difference. Okay, whether or not you succeed in doing the evil deed, it's the risk that's being punished.
To make a claim, right? And that makes sense in this case, because it should be my kids that have to decide, wait, did Dad ever go out of his way for us? Did he ever try to make it as good as possible?
Well, that's not, again, the argument. The argument has been made. It's you prevent, okay? It's no point in, after the facting, attempting to pay a price that you can't pay. No, you prevent the imposition. You don't sit there and try to fix it afterwards.
You ever try to solve the problems that we were facing or help us out? You obviously don't know, don't care about me, about them.
I don't care. That's right. I care about the subject of whether or not people should have some sort of unlicensed right to play God and create new human beings, new experiments for which they have no proven competence and they have no validated insurance policy or anything else. They have nothing. They have no credentials. All right. I'm saying they got to have some kind of credential. If you're going to do this, be credentialed, you motherfucker.
About their actual suffering instead of their imaginary suffering and so on.
Well, what happens in the real world isn't imaginary, Pyrrho. ALS is not imaginary. It's not.
You couldn't even make any kind of, even a peep of an argument. It'd be like defending drunk driving or defending even a rape. It's a fucking silly idiot.
No, it's like defending not giving capital punishment for drunk driving.
Oh, realistically, please. Okay, not having the right to play God and procreate, do these biological experiments is not the same thing as a capital punishment. It's not a death sentence. Okay, it's a sentence to take care of your own business, mind your own business, live your own life, and not to play a game with the future that you can't control, that you can't manage, that you can't guarantee, that you can do absolutely nothing for, and that you can take no responsibility when it all goes horribly fucking wrong. Damn it. But yeah, no, ignore the argument and say where the anti-natalist is attempting to kill you.
Right. If this metaphor made sense at all, it would be that I have to defend that you shouldn't get capital punishment for drunk driving, which, if you kill another person...
Again, sorry. Yeah, I think the way again, you've just changed the thought experiment and now somehow perverted it and somehow now, again, to tell people they don't have a right to play God, to create a new life form, when they have no proven competence, no proven capacity to avoid the horrors of it, the risks of it, that somehow that's a death sentence. Yeah, sorry. No sale.
I actually wouldn't want to defend that position.
Idiotic, selfish indulgence at the potential expense of someone else. That's it. There's nothing else to say here. It's like saying if there was some technique that worked in a bar 1 in 100 times.
Well, we won't repeat this little penis joke. But anyway, yeah, he doesn't respond to it anyway. He just concludes the video with, okay, I gave this first 5 minutes a fair shot. And that's fine. Like I said, I don't care how you do your counter argument. I don't even mind if people paraphrase. But if you're going to inaccurately paraphrase, well, I'm going to call you on it and show you for the perverter of the argument that you are. And so, yeah. I don't know how else. Do you have some better way to format these videos and to format argument? I'm all for it. But I don't know a better way. Yes, there has to be a concise video, and then somebody has to respond to those points with elaboration, and then it has to be made small again, then made big, and then small and big, and small and big. That's the only way you can do it, I think. You make it, then you break it. You make it, you break it. You make it, you break it, until finally you get to the stuff that really matters. But I don't even think we're going to ever do that, because you keep breaking the rules of analogy and thought experiment. You can't have a rational argument if you can't use metaphors and analogy. It really does limit the capacity to make an argument when you can't use other things as an example and such.